What must be included in a driver qualification file? This is FMCSA Compliance Q&A from Acrisure Truck Group. Take it away, Mark.
This is what would be what's called the DQ files. So this would be the driver qualification files of what must be maintained in that file. And we have 6 bullet points here on this particular slide that indicates: 1, the application for employment. There's prescribed application in Part 391.21 that says what that application has to indicate on there. So that application has minimum entries. So that would be maintained once it's completed by the driver. They would have to have that motor vehicle record that we just talked about. That would be the record. The very first one must be maintained forever, and then, or for duration of the employment. And then the other ones will be queried every year during annual review. And those only need to maintain up to 3 years worth of annual reviews. When you hit the fourth year of the annual review, the oldest one may then go. They're also going to look for that copy of the driver's certificate of road test, or the equivalent, which would be a photocopy of the CDL, the MVR from each state for the annual driver record inquiry. So once a year, once 12 months, the carrier must go out and run an MVR, make sure the driver is still valid, no concerns with the driving. He or her has no restrictions as far as, let's say, air brakes, automatic transmissions. Nothing's changed since the last time, hopefully with that. That is your proof of it. Also, what the carrier is required to do is just note that they looked at the driver's records, they evaluated the driver's safe performance once a year, and they basically have a note indicating they did an annual review, saying the driver is still safe to operate. And again, then a copy of the medical examiner certificate for most cases. So let me qualify that. So if you are a CDL driver, and you're a CDL driver in what's called a Tier 1, so that'd be a Tier 1 as an interstate for hire type of carrier, or interstate private carrier, as long as you're not in an exempted industry that we spoke about in our first session, then you'd be a Tier 1, and your medical certification is required to be filed with the state of licensure. So if a FedMed card is obtained, that FedMed card is given to the DMV of your state of licensure. They will enter the federal medical certification status on the record. Now you'll see in the rules and regulations, if you look into it, is that for 15 days once you receive the card, you may use that as proof of your FedMed card status. But in reality, that's true for the DQ file, but you must make sure that the driver does not drive until, in a Tier 1 situation, the driver's federal certification status is in the actual MVR returned from the state listed. Otherwise, it would have a restriction until that is placed on there. For that reason, the actual physical copy of a FedMed card after the 15th day is no longer a requirement, but what is a copy of the MVR showing the federal medical certification status on it, kept into the driver's DQ file. That's their proof of the medical examiner certificate, is the MVR with that certification status. Now remember, we have those that are non-CDL vehicles that are 10,001 pounds or more that are subject to FedMed requirements when they're involved in interstate commerce. They're not going to have the opportunity to put on their CDL because they don't log non-CDL drivers in FedMed statuses. So those non-CDL drivers will need to carry their FedMed card with them at all times, and also a copy of their FedMed would be in their driver qualification file. Another requirement is, once the carrier verifies the FedMed card, to make sure that it's on their MVR for CDL drivers Tier 1, or we get the FedMed card that the driver in the box truck turns in and gives to us, we then, as a carrier, would need to go out and certify or verify the doctor listed on that card, and that practitioner's certification number is actually listed on the National Registry of Certified Medical Examiners. The carrier is required to log into here, and basically the best portion is to do an advanced search. You can type in the credentials, and it will pop up whether or not that doctor is recognized. These are doctors that are only recognized by FMCSA because they went through the training to know what that exact medical advisory criteria is and what those parameters are for making sure the driver was qualified to operate. Once you run the query, you see the doctor is in fact listed. I encourage you to take a screenshot or a print of that and then place that in the driver's qualification file to show this check was done. The reason for it is 6 to 8 months later, that doctor may leave the registry or retire, and a check later may show that they don't find themselves in there, or they will not be found within that registry. So documenting it will ensure that you did the test and would satisfy an audit or review. This is kind of a quick checklist for the safety manager, what needs to be in a DQ file. And we've talked about these items, the application, there's a the pre-qualification questionnaire basically is getting permission to contact additional previous employers with that. The pre-employment drug test, you want to make sure that that is in place, and that's a whole other section prior to a driver driving. The MVR, copy of the driver's license, and we also get into medical examiner certificates. So the first ones are permanent records for as long as that driver is employed, and then the following records, such as the medical exam, the expiration, MVRs, and so forth, they have a 36-month retention period. This is a nice little checklist for the safety manager to kind of keep up on a driver to make sure that they were completed in the terms of DQ file maintenance.